All right, thanks, guys. Oleg Kutusov takes on Andrei Menchikov in a 6:30 p.m. Eastern start time in Russia Liga Pro table tennis. Both men are 1-1 in their last two outings, respectively. And before we go ahead and break this one down, I just have to quickly remind you that we improved to 7-2 yesterday in our last 9 Dog of the Day tier membership plays on patreon.com/BrockPage. Of course, that's a website that I operate that gives you premium daily sports picks, beginning at just $1.99 through the end of the month. And yesterday's Underdog tier membership winners going to improve our record to 10-3 in our last 13 Underdog tier package plays on that website as well. We're also currently 9-2 with a push in our last 12 extra daily pick tier package plays on that website. Good for 82% during that span. We'll get to talking a little bit more about that in just a second. But before we go ahead and do that, let's take a look at this Kutusov-Menchikov matchup. And speaking of Menchikov, he's dropped 2 out of his last 3, including a tough 3-2 loss to Ivan Novokov in his last outing. Andrei's 2-5 record in his last 7 is good for just 28% during that span. His 3-10 record in his last 13 is also good for a win percentage of just .231. He's taking on a Kutusov opponent who's been victorious in 2 out of his last 4, including a hard-fought 3-2 victory over Sergey Kuzmin during that span. He also beat Ivan Novokov in convincing fashion 3-1 during that stretch as well. His 10-5 record in his last 15 is good for a win percentage of .667. Looks like a fairly decent spot for Kutusov backers, although this should be a highly competitive matchup. Give me Oleg Kutusov winning this match in a close one. Next contest, Dimitry Mursilin squaring off against Vlad Chirokov in a 6:30 p.m. Eastern start time. Chirokov's coming off an embarrassing 3-0 shutout to Aleksandar in his last outing. He also lost his last 3 matches, and they all came by way of shutout. Chirokov's 5-10 record in his last 15 is good for a win percentage of just .333. He was also shut out in 5 out of those 10 losses. Now Dimitry on the other side is coming fresh off a 3-0 shutout victory over Kirill Abramov in his last outing himself. He's also currently on a 4-match winning streak, with 2 out of those 4 wins coming by way of shutout. He's 8-4 straight up in his last dozen, with 3 of those wins coming by way of shutout as well. Might not be a bad spot here for Mursilin backers. Give me Dimitry Mursilin winning this one straight up for some money line cash. Next and final matchup, it is going to be Sergey Vakar squaring off against Igor Smirnov, 6:30 p.m. Eastern first serve. Smirnov's the $1.50 favorite in this contest here, with a total at 75.5. And if you like Vakar in an upset, he's plus $1.10 for some moneyline cash. And speaking of Vakar, he's coming fresh off a dominant 3-0 shutout victory over Igor Smirnov in his last outing. He's currently on a 2-match win streak, including another shutout victory, this time coming against Yevgeny Glazin. His 3-1 record in his last 4 is good for 75%. Also, 4 out of his last 5 victories came by way of dominating shutouts. Now, Smirnov on the other side has dropped 2 out of his last 4, including a heartbreaking 3-2 defeat to Yevgeny Glazin. Igor was actually held to just 2 games won in the second set of that match. Smirnov's 2-4 record in his last 6 is good for a win percentage of just .333 during that short span. He's also just 5-6 straight up in his last 11. Now, total-wise, Igor's last 2 straight stayed well under 75.5 games. 5 out of his last 7 also stayed under that number. Meanwhile, on the other side, Sergey Vakar saw his last 4 straight stay under that number himself. Might not be too bad of a spot here for an underplay if your book allows it. Give me the underdog, Sergey Vakar, plus $1.10, and the under 75.5 in that contest.